Yes, ASMR here with another ASMR video for you. Let's get started. So I have a book I want to share with you. It is a friend of mine's. It's one of her favorite books. It's really interesting. It's very old and just full of interesting information that would be basically useless today. The book is called Etiquette. It's by Emily Post. Post, 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 Post. See, it's very, very old. So we'll start with the first section. In answer to a letter. Again, by way of preface to this newly revised edition of Etiquette, 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 Etiquette. I am reprinting this letter that was sent me at a time when the term cafe society was coined to apply to an unclassifiably mixed group of restaurant and nightclub habitués. This letter is today as applicable to the subject of this book, as it was before the war. Dear Mrs. Post, while waiting my turn in a doctor's office, I happened to read in one of America's greatest magazines an amazingly frank article about the publicity craving of what the author calls cafe society and evidently believes to be New York's smartest society. As I finished the story about people whose social position was seemingly proclaimed by being placed by the head waiter at a ringside table, I said to myself, and so what? Who cares whether the so-and-sos are given a front row table at a high-priced restaurant, or whether they eat at an automat? But to my own surprise, I found myself suddenly caring very much, because it is assumed that the rest of us are satisfied to have these same society headliners represent the American social ideal. This article and hundreds like it depict a world that is pretentious and vulgar, and no one, so far as I know, is saying a word in society's defense, or has it no defense? I'd like to know the truth, Mrs. Post. That's why I'm writing to you. Is it true that these people I've been reading about are the same ones as those whose opinions you so often refer to as authoritative? Or is there another best society which must have been shamed into seeking greater and greater privacy? And yet this doesn't follow through, because the names figuring conspicuously in several front-page scandals have been those of families whose prestige has always been looked up to as representative of America's best. I've been trying to think why I should care. I think it is this. Reformers of sorts may write all they please about the bad taste of Hollywood, but we, the countless middle class people of the nation, look there for entertainment and not for the patterns of high social and ethical traditions. On the other hand, we not only look up to, but are as a nation represented by those who are assumed to comprise our highest social class. As you see from the stamping on my letter paper, I live far from New York. And if I, who am so far removed from the super rich and super smart of a far off city, can feel so strongly about this disloyalty to all sense of noblesse oblige on the part of those who are thought to be the top, because holding the foremost social citadel of the nation, what must you feel, who all your life have been of the social world of New York? Perhaps you won't answer me. perhaps you can't. Perhaps the society depicted by these others is what that of all great cities has come to. But if you can, I do wish you would give us, who are your readers, a reassuring glossary for search terms as best society, people of quality, people of taste, the smart or the modern or the fashionable world. Or if you can't, won't you be frank with us, who believe you and who are bringing our children up according to your precepts, and tell us the truth? Is this society of names advertised and rated by where they walk in the parade and where a head waiter seats them in a restaurant, or by a published list of 10 best dressed ladies, also your society? Is the admirable world of society that I have thought I could read between the lines of what you write real, or do you make it up? No, I do not make up the people of whom I write, nor the society that I define as best. But I admit that the reassuring glossary you ask for is almost as difficult to make clear as it would be to separate each color that has gone into the painting of a picture. In the general picture of this modern day, the smart and the near smart, the distinguished and the merely conspicuous, the real and the sham, and the unknown general public are all mixed up together. The walls that used to enclose the world that was fashionable are all down. Even the car tracks that divided cities into smart and not smart sections are torn up. On the other hand, there are countless private houses whose walls are standing intact and whose shades are pulled down when the indoor lights are lighted. And within the walls of the houses there are enclosures where the owners spend their days and into which intimate friends go at their pleasure. But out in the big concourse, where the reporters gather with their cameras, the crowd is the same public one that goes to the races or to the restaurants or to the nightclubs. There is nowhere to go to see best society on parade, because parading is one thing that best society does not intentionally do. And yet, it is true, and this is one of the things hardest to make clear, that in the forefront of the public parade are to be found a certain few who are really best, but they are best in spite of, and not because of, the publicity they attract. When I say that people of taste do this or think that, I naturally have in mind definite people whose taste is the most nearly perfect among all those whom I know, or on occasion. Perhaps I go back in memory to the precepts of those whose excellence has remained an ideal. In other words, when I write of people of quality or fashion or taste, I always select the individual people who ideally serve as models, exactly as I select flowers in my garden, which are to be put in a certain room, or more particularly, if I am choosing the best varieties to be exhibited at the flower show, I certainly don't go into the garden and pick half a dozen blooms of the first plant that happens to be labeled for good variety, even though they are all grown from seeds that came in the same packet and have been given the same cultivation, but I carefully choose the most perfect individual blooms I can find. This figure of speech perhaps explains how it can happen that A certain Elaine eminence can have not a single characteristic that one labeled with that name should have. In other words, to return to our glossary, best society, best people, or people of quality can all be defined as people of cultivation, courtesy, taste, and kindness. People, moreover, who are very rarely dissociated from their backgrounds. In thinking of them, you think of their home surroundings, their families, their intimates, their work, their interests. But when you ask for the meaning of smart, fashionable, and modern, the qualities implied may include fastidious taste, alert perceptions, appreciative knowledge of every forward-looking movement of the day. Or on the other hand, it may mean no more than a flair for the trend of the moment, or no less than a love of limelight. So you can see how what's what. You can see how hard it is to try to explain who's who, let alone the much harder what's what. The fact I should like to bring out is that the rating by superficial appearance or the accident of publicity has little to do with an accurate appraisal of intrinsic worth or worthlessness. Real value is something back of and apart from publicity. Value. There is all the difference between climbing on the bandwagon in order to be noticed by the public standing on the sidelines and impulsively jumping on board because one can see better what it is at the moment going on. I hope you enjoyed this short reading. Look forward to another video shortly. Thank you so much, and please subscribe.